You know, a lot of writers say that they take up directing out of defense because they hate to see what somebody else is doing to their words. I don't consider myself either a writer or a director. I'm a filmmaker. You know, I do write, I direct the stuff, I do the editing, sound design, all the stuff. I have my hands all over the place on it, and I feel that, you know, these are my films. I don't just consider myself a writer or a director, or I am a filmmaker.
Would you counsel people in filmmaking to at least take a stab at writing their own stuff?
Actually, no. In the same way that not everybody should have a band or should a recording deal. You know, I mean, if you work at writing, I mean, for a long time I made 9 short films and directed a bunch of documentaries and stuff long before I took on my first feature. I felt like I was trying to lay the groundwork to do a feature because as fun as it is and as crazy as it is, it's a lot of work. And you don't just walk out and do a first feature. And many people, their first features suck. And it takes a while, especially if that's the first thing they've done, but it takes a while to get the hang of doing it. And be able to tell a story over 90 minutes, 100 minutes, I mean, that's really, really tough. I always recommend that people should start with short films. Make a bunch of short films and really learn their craft and figure out if they do have something to say. And then maybe take on a feature.
Well, let's talk a little bit about those short films. How many have you made? What was your first one? And you know, how do you feel about the medium of short films?
My first short film was called That Really Obscure Object of Desire. And it was about an old car that I owned that had been staying in my sister's garage for years, way too many years. And I made a film about the moving of that car out of the garage. And I interviewed my sister and talked about what the car meant to me. And she talked about how much she hated it. And I have to say that that movie was an absolute bomb. I sent it, 7 minutes long, I sent it to all sorts of film festivals, I sent it everywhere, and nobody would touch it. And I think they thought it was pretty weird, or just pretty, it's like, what is this strange thing? And eventually I ended up placing it on a short-lived TV series on PBS called American Pie. And although everybody rejected it except for one guy back in Minneapolis, it had a national airing on PBS. After that, I made a film called You'll Change, about becoming a father for the first time at the age of 35, and all the advice my friends were giving me. And that's the film that really took off, that established me. Film festivals then couldn't get enough of that movie, which I follow with Stolen Toyota, about my car being stolen and totaled. And so those films did really, really well, but it's funny that the film that started it all truly was a bomb. I mean, I sent it to so many people. I got so disappointed, and I just kind of got pissed off, and that's why I made the second movie. It's like, oh yeah, if you didn't like that movie, wait till you see this one. You're really not going to like it. And it just, you know, it ended up being, I think, 8 films. And they were a lot of fun to do. I recommend doing short films wholeheartedly because you learn the craft, but it also, doing short films is a double-edged sword. Also, in that, since I've started doing features, my features are not like my short films. And I can't tell you all the people that say, when are you going to make funny movies again? Why can't you make films like your shorts? They were so funny. And, you know, it's not that easy. You know, how do you adapt a 7-minute film, which is entertaining, you know, and has something to say, to, you know, make it feature length? I mean, I don't think you can do it. And so, to me, you know, people, it bothers me that everybody wants me to keep doing the same kind of movie over and over because they were funny and they were nice. But I'm a different filmmaker than the guy who made those short films.
But it must have been a necessary step in your development as a filmmaker to make that first film. What was it like writing that first one and planning it and executing it?
Execution would be the proper word there. I felt, you know, I think that I didn't know what I was getting into. You know, I'd made films in school and all that stuff, but this was like my first piece. And there's nobody looking over my shoulder and all that stuff. And so, you know, when I look at it, I see mistakes that I wish, what was I thinking, kind of shit. But I think that it was a great training ground. It was a great testing ground for me. And I think that especially as I've been making more and more films, having the first short film really bomb and getting all these rejections stuff has actually helped me in the long run, because I don't think that, you know, everything that I do is going to turn to gold.